It's a pleasure. Welcome everyone coming in. In the last class, we have been talking about the different stages of data processing. We've talked about defining the problem, collecting data, preparing data, and in this, we've also talked about analyzing your data as well. And just in this class, I will run through all these things again, just to breeze through and get us to really understand the entire process of data analytics before I now go into, I have a guest in the house today. Is a product leader and a supply chain leader at Amazon, and he will be sharing some of his experiences with us on how he uses data and the different tech stack that is being used, especially within the space of artificial intelligence and machine learning, and how all of this is coming together in what you see. For example, when you go on Amazon, what do you see on Amazon? How do they decide on which product they show you and all of that? So that's how this series is going to be, be going forward. We will be trying to bring in experts from the field to come and share their experience with you. So defining the problem, we talked about the reason why you need to define a problem, which is you need to know exactly the problem you want to solve, and then know what kind of data that you're going to need to solve that problem, and how you are going to collect that data, and of course the techniques that you're going to use to eventually process and analyze that data. And then at that time, we discussed about a pizza shop, and also we used an analysis of a bank account product and how you can, and how we would look at it in processing that data. And then we talked about the problem statement, defining the problem statement. How do you define it? By using the SMART methodology: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. And then we talked about a specific problem statement that you might want to solve, which is, for example, you want to increase customer retention by 10%. And then you talked about, for example, how do you measure customer retention? And we talked about tracking your customers, for example, those that bought last month and those that bought this month, and then checking if there has been a repeat customer. If that customer that bought last month came back again this month to buy something else again in your shop, in your pizza shop, for example, or in your grocery store. Achievable in the sense that you don't want to set a target that you cannot achieve, and you don't want to set a target that you do not have resource to help you to achieve those targets. So you have to look at those targets within the context of the resources that you have and the strategies that you're going to implement to achieve that target. And also we talked about being a very relevant goal. That's the problem that you're trying to solve has to be relevant for your business, has to make sense for your business. And you need to set a timeline within which you want to solve that problem. And then after you've defined your problem, now you need to go into collecting the data. Of course, within that definition stage, you have defined what type of data you need to collect and how you are going to collect it. And we give an example of, like, do you think age is going to be relevant? Do you think gender? Do you think location is going to be relevant for that data that you want, problem that you want to solve? And then by defining those, you need to define those those data points that you're going to need to help you make a sense and analyze maybe your customer touch points or those people that are coming to your store, and making a decision if this is very relevant for them. Alternatively, if you are a writer, for example, in the last series, maybe you might want to watch the video. I talked us through how to go on SEMrush, how to get access to it. I think at the cost of about $3 a month, you should be able to get access. I shared also the names of those providers that would give you access to some SEMrush at a very cheap price. And there you can go and download data about the different niches that you're writing about. And based on that niche, you can then start to look at, for example, we're looking at the number of searches. That's how many people have searched for this specific keyword in the last 3 months on Google, for example. That will give you an idea of, should I be writing about this content? If you are somebody that writes about marriage, You want to go on SEMrush and go and check what are people searching for that is related to marriage. Where are those people located? So you can tailor your content, and you can tailor the keywords that you're going to use in your content specifically targeted to the audience that you're trying to address it to. You can do it the same too. For example, on maybe Instagram or on Facebook, you can go to SEMrush and try to find out what are people looking for on Facebook. What are the kind of searches people are doing, and that will give you a sense of what are those keywords that you can quickly write about, that can bring traction to your content. And also you could look at, for example, your website behavior. I use Google Analytics personally to look at the kind of traffic I see on the blogs that I run. So I check who are the people that are visiting my sites. Maybe before the end of this session, I could show you some of those data points, and you could clearly see that the visitors to my sites are mostly from US, Canada, Nigeria, UK, and Australia. So that gives me an idea of who are the people, and then I can see also the content that people are engaging more with, like what links are they clicking more on, like what articles are they reading more. And that will give me a sense that, okay, my visitors tend to like content about marriage, and they tend to like content about maybe repairing their marriage, or maybe I can also check the demographics. Maybe I could see what kind of maybe I could see their age brackets if possible. And there's so many things that you could see that will give you an idea of how to optimize your content, how to improve the content that you are writing. So if you have not checked that video, please go and check it. That would give you an idea of how to really optimize your writing game. So this is how you collect data. You could collect data primarily by, maybe if you have customers walking into your shop, you could engage with them and ask them questions. Or for example, you could have those data based on secondary data that you're getting directly from your site, and analyze that data and then give you an idea of what type of products are people buying more, for example, or what products are people clicking but they don't eventually buy it. Could it be the price point that the price of that product is making people not to buy it? That will start to give you an idea of what you need to change in your business. In terms of best practices, I talked about it. You need to define exactly what type of data points you are going to be monitoring. You need to define what sources of data you are going to be using to get your data. We talked about triangulating your data, which means that you get your data from different sources and try to check them against each other to be sure that there are no, for example, outliers, and that the data you're getting is basically syncing. Then you need to clean the data, which means that if there are errors, if there are inconsistencies, you need to take care of that. Also, you need to store your data securely. But most importantly, you need to be careful of bias in your data. And in the last class, I mentioned something about that when we were going for a break. And I did not inform you guys that I'm going to ask you at a specific time in the class if we're going to go for a break. So by not giving you all that information ahead of time, I have created a sort of bias in that decision process, because I eventually threw it in the open and I said people should vote. But perhaps, maybe you guys were not prepared to vote. Maybe you didn't even know how I would make that decision. So because I didn't give you enough context even before the class started, I've created a sort of bias in that decision-making process, which means that if I made decision based on the voting exercise, I may not eventually be making the best decision because there's been some type of bias in my data. The same goes to, for example, we could use the example of election in Nigeria, where everybody knew or thought that, for example, we were going to use some specific type of technology to make our election counting. But on the election day, the devices or the technology did not work. So maybe people got disappointed. Maybe there has been a lot of human errors that may then come into play at the collation point. But the real point there is there has been a bias that has been introduced into that selection, or that's the collation process. And that's the whole point of your data collection. You have to be very careful about introducing bias into your data collection. And then preparing your data. The entire process of preparing your data includes cleaning that data, transforming the data if needs be. I talked about, for example, if you have to do sentiment analysis in the sense that, okay, so perhaps we should just do a quick exercise now on sentiment analysis. And let's see if I could do that with ChatGPT for a moment. So let's try something here. And we'll go to here and go for, and I will, upload a data set here now. And we'll just do a quick little exercise on that. So now, the reason why, maybe to even provide additional context here, is I am doing this so you have an idea of why you're using AI. So AI in this case is supposed to be a companion. I have attached a data set to this chart now, and I am going to start querying this data based on what I'm trying to do. In the last class, I shared something about sentiment. I would, bring everything around now. So now maybe we should use, let's see this. Okay, let's use a whiteboard. Start a whiteboard. It's usually one of the easiest tools that I like to use when I'm teaching, because it's easy to use, and it's whiteboard, it's clean, and everybody can follow. So let's just use this actually for our sentiment analysis. So this is a workflow of how sentiment analysis would look like. Let's say you've gone out to collect data and you've been asking people questions, people that come into your store, and so interview questions. Okay, I'm trying to show you how to do sentiment analysis now, in a very manual and basic way, and maybe after I will show you how to do it in a more automated format. Okay, so let's put sentiment here. So in your interview questions, for example, you might have asked your users, do you like, so for example, maybe you're asking open questions. What do you like about the pizza? Let's say it's your pizza shop, and you wanted to find get people's opinion about your pizza, and let's say you also ask questions about is the crust thickness good enough? Okay, or this is just, let's use this as two examples of an interview question that you are going to ask your customers about the pizza that you are making. Let's say, what do you like about the pizza? And then your customer will give you a response. Or let's say customer A. This is for customer A. And then I will do sentiment for customer B as well. Okay, so in this situation, we're talking about two customers here, customer A and customer B. You have given the two of them interview questions. The first question says, what do you like about the pizza? Customer A could say, oh, it's nice. Maybe you asked them, what would you say to your friend about this pizza? Please, everyone, kindly mute. I think there's someone who is not muted, please. Okay, thank you. So what would you say to your friend about this pizza? Maybe you could say it is too spicy or something. It's a bit spicy. I like it though, right? And in this case, if you look at it, if you're going to run a sentiment analysis on this, you could do something where you classify each of these as, you could use specific keywords. You could run a query on it and find keywords. Otherwise, you could use ChatGPT to do a sentiment analysis on this feedback to tell you whether this, but just eyeballing it, you could see that nice means that it is positive. While it's a bit spicy, but I like it though, is not necessarily a positive statement. So you could classify this as not positive, right? Which is therefore a negative in this case. Or you could use it as, you could give this 0 because it is a bit neutral. It's saying he likes it, and then it's saying it's a bit spicy. That's sort of, so you could count the sentiments that are in there and then sum all the sentiments together. So in this case, it is nice. It's giving you one sentiment. In this case, it's saying it's a bit spicy. You could turn this to a neutral sentiment. And then if it says it is, so this one is not saying it is negative, it's just saying it's neither there nor here. So this is sort of like a neutral sentiment. So we could give it that context and say this is neutral, right? In that case, and sorry, positive. While this sentiment here is maybe we could call it neutral, right? And then after you run your sentiment analysis, then you go to the next stage, which is then assigning values to those sentiments. Where it is positive, you could put 1, depending on how you want to run this. You could run this in different ways. Let's say you assign positive and say for all positive sentiment, you give it 1. For all negative sentiment, you give it -1, and for all neutral sentiment, you give them 0. And therefore, you start to do your sum and then decide whether for this product or for this customer A, the entire, you do an average of the sentiment, or you do a summation of all the sentiment and say customer A has given us a very positive sentiment, feels very positive about our product, while customer B is not feeling very great about this product. Maybe the sum of all the sentiments is now turning into negative. So basically, like I said, it's a function of how, so like I said, this one here, you could assign 1 to this, and for this sentiment here, yes, and for this one, you could assign 2, 0, which is neutral. So now you have started to do, you're now converting your text into numbers. And that is what I'm trying to refer to here, where you transform your data into a format that is compatible, right? Not because you are now going to start to process it and run it in numbers, but now you have done sentiment analysis first, and then you are assigning values to your sentiment, and that is what we have just done here. And you could do the same thing also for customer B, and do the same thing for customer C, and do it for all your customers. Run the sentiment analysis, assign values to the sentiment, and then you then go into doing your analysis. So it's always very important to make sure that you do your transformation. You transform your data into a format that is compatible with all the data sets, and then do what you call creating a data dictionary for reference sake. So let's go back into what we were trying to do here. Let's use ChatGPT to create a data dictionary for this data set that I've uploaded here. Create a data dictionary. So you see what a data dictionary looks like. It's just annotations. It's like providing more nuances about the different columns that you have there. So that when I come there tomorrow and I've not read anything about your data, and I just look at your data dictionary, I can immediately say, this is what this data set is about. Remember, we have just small data set here. Sometimes you could have a data set with 1,000 data points or with 1,000,000 data points. But when you have a data dictionary, that data dictionary just basically helps somebody new that is coming into the team or into the system, looks at that data dictionary and says, okay, this is what this data is about, and this is what each data point means on this data set for this data set. Okay, and then now I have given it a command to create a data dictionary, and it would maybe run this analysis and come back with yeah. So it has come to say for a data set, the dictionary will look like this. Data type is integer for the store number. For the average daily customer, the description, the average number of customers visiting the store each day. So a data dictionary is going to help somebody that is coming new into the team to see exactly what the data is about, what each data point or data item in there represents, and how they would be able to interact with it whenever they want to use that data, or when they want to make a sense or run an analysis on that data. So I'll go back quickly into my presentation. And then the last part is organizing your data. Of course, I've talked about the data dictionary and managing multiple data sets together. So for example, if you have collected your data from different sources and you're trying to bring them together, then you're able to match them together. When we get to the SQL part of this conversation later, and we will talk about joins and how to bring different parts of your data, aligning them, syncing them, and using that to do your analysis. So now we are in the analysis stage. At the analysis stage, that is where you use statistical methods, different statistical methods to analyze your data. You could use, for example, machine learning algorithms to predict, for example, which customers are at risk of churning. You could use different data mining techniques to discover hidden patterns. You could run a correlation analysis between, for example, total number of sales of maybe pizza versus your total average revenue. Maybe, for example, your average revenue, for example, if you have a big store and you're not just selling only pizza, let's say you're selling other grocery items as well. Say soda, say biscuits and all that, and then you want to see the relation between your total sales versus the sales of pizza. That will give you an idea of perhaps maybe the people that are coming to my shop are more interested in pizza than any other thing, and that can give you a sense of whether you should even be buying other things. Maybe people actually like your store because they buy pizza in your store, and that pizza is actually your primary product. And that would give you a sense that, okay, if my customers really like me because of pizza, I should put more effort into making sure that I create enough varieties of pizza for them. Or for example, if people like your shop because you sell jollof rice and every other thing is not really moving fast, then you start to think about jollof rice as your primary product, and you start to build on jollof rice, maybe create additional menu around jollof rice, maybe introduce different types of spices for a jollof rice, maybe even introduce like a packaged jollof rice, or a quick menu, a quick recipe for a jollof rice, or different types of things that you could then start to implement based on the information that you're getting from your analysis. Let's have a look at the data that we have again and interact with this data. and perhaps that might help you to see what I am trying to do. So now I want to analyze this data. So for example, I could want to see to compare. So these are the data items that we have in this data. We have the average daily customers, we have average daily soda sales, we have average daily soda sales in dollars. This one is in units. Then we have average total daily sales for all products. So maybe I want to compare so different analysis you could do perform. So you could now the reason why we're using AI as the initial stage for you to get into data analytics, or why I'm using AI at this point to do this introduction, is because it's easier for you to quickly learn and get to use data. Because all you have to do is upload the data into ChatGPT and start interacting with it. In subsequent classes, at another time, we would do more advanced techniques and really use some other tools. But for an entry-level data analyst or somebody who's interested in working with data, this is an easy way for you to work. Okay, so calculate, for example, calculate the total soda sales in units across all stores. So that's a data point that you might want to have a look at and say, what is the total soda sales that you have, and that's it. It's saying, okay, from across all the stores that we have here, the total sales is 418 units. And then you might look at it again and say, perhaps you want to do to check to compare average daily sales across all the across all stores. Okay, compare average daily sales across all stores. Okay, identify the stores with the highest sales, and the one with the least sales. Okay, so and then what we're just trying to do is we're trying to analyze this data, and you're looking at it from the perspective of an analyst and saying, okay, on average, daily sales across all stores are about 3,939. So that's what they sell on a day-to-day basis across all the stores, average. The store with the highest sale is store number 27 with average total daily sales of 5,256. And the store with the least sale is store number 37 with the average total daily sales of 2,279. So like, this is how you start to make a sense of your data. You interrogate your data, you find you could find more relationships. Let's look at let's do a comparison between the average daily customer sales and daily sales. That would be in terms of correlation. So what is the correlation? Correlation is a relationship between, that is, maybe as you have more sales in pizza, then your total, or soda, your total number of sales will go up. And if people don't buy soda, then you don't sell a lot. This is how you can find out. So, because in this data set, you have average daily soda sales and you have average total daily sales. So what's the correlation between average daily soda sales in units? Oh no, so I think what we have here is, okay, versus, what's the correlation between average total daily sales in units and average total daily sales for all products? So you're trying to find the correlation between the two, and we would, get a response. You analyze it and tell us the correlation, but then I will then explain to you. So correlation is relationship between two items, or two data sets, or rather correlation between two data points that you have on your data. So for example, let's say in this case now, the total daily sales versus the total daily, the relationship between average daily soda sales, that is the soda you are selling on a daily basis, versus the entire product. And when you look at that relationship, that will tell you more about the relationship that you have between the two. It doesn't always lead to correlation, doesn't always mean causation. It doesn't always mean that it's the reason why you're selling more, but it will give you an idea that, okay, if I sell soda a lot, then there is a likelihood that I'm also selling a lot across all products. And that will give you a sense of what is happening. You can start to explore more why there is that relationship. This says the correlation between average daily soda sales in units and average total daily sales for all products is approximately 0.185. This suggests a weak positive relationship, meaning as soda sales in units increases, total sales tend to increase as well, but not very strongly. So that is AI giving you more explanation and more nuance into that, and then you can even open it further to see what it has used, the Python code that it has actually used to perform this this analysis. Okay, so let's go back to our slide. So we've just talked about analyzing your data. And then the next stage is visualizing the data. So visualizing the data is showing you the data plots. Visualization actually helps you to see your data more clearly, in a way that just looking at that data set will not necessarily give you. Let me give you an example of what I'm trying to talk about here. So I will open the data set now, and we can look at it together, and you can see how what I mean. So now this is your data. I mean, just looking at that data straight up may not necessarily tell you anything, except you look very closely, and start to look at all the numbers one by one, but it doesn't tell you anything much by just looking at it. Visualization helps you to see the relationship in your data points, your data sets, easily and in a graphic way. So with visualization, you are creating charts and graphs, and you're able to communicate your findings, because it shows the relationship between the data points that you have. So we will do a quick run of another instruction into ChatGPT now to give us a correlation plot. So now we've just run it. We want to now do a correlation between average daily customers versus total daily sales. So that is, let's see a correlation between, if there's any correlation between the number of people that come into the shop versus the total daily sales, right? Maybe that would give you an idea of, when people come into the store, do they always buy? Like, the more footprints you have in your store, are we getting sales? Today, like we said, in the age of AI, there is now facial recognition that even helps you to count the number of people that enters your shop. So by just installing a camera, you can count the number of people that has entered your shop every day. And because there is also facial recognition, you can now know the number of unique customers that visit your shop. And that way you can determine whether some customers come frequently, more than once in a day. And you can start to, look at your data. Why are some people coming back regularly? What do they actually come to buy? And then you can start looking at their footprints. What part of the shop, and this time you're looking like some spatial analysis there. What part of the store are people going to? Maybe people usually go towards the entrance. Maybe there's a product there that they are buying more, and you want to load that part more with that product. Or maybe there's nothing really spectacular about what the product they're buying. Maybe it's just the location that people like, or the ambience around that corner. And so you try to push some more products to that direction. So basically, AI helps you to see all of these things, and then your job is to analyze that data to give you more sense. So I will ask AI now, ChatGPT, to give me a correlation plot, which is the relationship between the customers that are coming to your store, these daily customers, and daily sales. Okay, so let's see a correlation plot in this case. And once you see that correlation plot, it will immediately give you a sense of, okay, so this is what my data looks like. Cool. Now, this is a correlation plot. This is what I call visualization. And this is how you analyze or you process this kind of visualization. This is ChatGPT give me a correlation plot, and it's telling me, I could even ask it for the correlation coefficient. Okay, so what is the correlation coefficient? That is how related they are, and I will break it down in a moment. Between daily customers and total daily sales. While that is being calculated, I just want to give you a simple explanation here. Between 100 and 150 average daily customers, you can see how your average daily sales is really steep. It's really increasing very high. But once you go beyond the 150 average daily customers, the impact on your average daily sales has reduced. It's not as steep as between here. So this is telling you something, that perhaps the first 150 customers that come, we don't know the time that they come. So that's another analysis you want to check. For example, what time of the day are these first, are these 150 customers coming in? Or for example, what products are they buying? So those are the kind of points you want to start to look at. But this is already telling you that the first 150 customers in average daily customer sales, daily customer visit to your store, your average daily sales is very steep. But beyond the 150 customers, then it flattens out. So that is how you start to make sense of this, and you could start to devise a way around what kind of offers. You could say, well, the first 150 customers that comes to my store to buy something today, you get 10% discount. That is a way to leverage on this kind of data point, because now I know, okay, my average daily sales is very steep between 100 and 150. Now, between 150 and 400 is not that much. Perhaps you want to find and dig deeper into why this is happening. Is it because, are these people that come very early in the morning, and then after the first few hours of the day, maybe my workers are not that active, maybe they are not giving excellent service towards that afternoon time? You never know, but you can only find out as you dig deeper into the data and find more data points to explore. And that's what I'm trying to say about first defining the problem. Now you could see that there is a problem here. Between the 150 and 400 average daily customer sales, there is a problem. The average daily sales value there as plateaued. So this is how you start to interact with your data and make more sense of it. And sharing the results. This is part of sharing the result, presenting it to your customers, to stakeholders in the organization, or to yourself, or to your colleagues at work. It's about sharing the insights that you have now found. What is that data telling you? What's the visualization telling you? What sense have you made out of it? This is how you make sense of your data. The next part of this class is the introduction to SQL and how to use AI in conjunction with SQL to improve your how you make sense of data. And now we are starting to get into the technical parts of things. But before we get into this part, I want to introduce you to my colleague, the guest speaker today, who would be sharing his insights with us. I will stop sharing now, and so he can join us in this session, and he will be sharing also his thoughts and his ideas on other things. His name is Adegoke Falaye. Is a very good friend of mine. We went to the University of Ibadan together, and after the University of Ibadan, we have both gone to the UK to do masters. He did his masters as well at the University of Leeds, I believe. And after that, he has also done another master's degree in supply chain at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology in the US. And so he will be taking over the presentation from me. He will be sharing with you insights on how he has been using AI and how, and he would also share with you some other insights around the different tech stack that are being used. And some of those ones, if you continue to be part of this session in subsequent classes, we will now be going deeper into those tech stacks. For today, we'll just do with an introduction to SQL, and in subsequent classes, we'll be taking those stacks. So join me, guys, to welcome Adegoke Falaye to this presentation. Over to you.
All right, Dotun. Thanks a lot. Very generous introduction there. It's also good just learning and listening to, some of the practicality of like how you solve a problem, and also using ChatGPT as a tool to get into, some of the things there. I'll try to make it more interactive. First talk about myself, and then I'll go deep into some of the common use of AI today in big tech, right? So this is not like tangled around a particular company or particular organization. It's more generic for you to know what the market looks like for AI, and also to listen to you if you have any like relevant questions that you will feel. Please use the message queue here to put in your question, and feel free to ask any question in the message queue. I want to make sure I take a lot of questions. I probably have a few minutes to go over my slide for you. But yeah, interrupt me in the message section with your questions for sure. Thanks, Dotun, for what you do for the community, and also sharing some of your knowledge here. From an experience point of view, I've worked a lot with data, and some of that I've even done with Dotun. I think we at a point had a startup all based driven by data decision, sourcing, and doing all of that end to end. So excited definitely to be here. That's my profile there. Been with Ericsson, Alcatel Lucent, Shell, and currently I'm with Amazon. And then my passion is all over the place, right? Tech, real estate, investments, but I like most is impacting knowledge, and which I was glad when Dotun wanted me to do this for you all. That's my picture there. I like to travel a lot. That's Standing behind me is La Sagrada Familia in Spain, built by Anthony Gaudi, one of the finest church you want to be. All right. I'll move quickly into the core of my presentation, but like I said, I would like to hear some of your questions definitely in the message box. So what is all this AI thing in tech at the end of the day? Like, what does it mean? Like, and who uses who drive the largest usage of AI? The first one that you should be close to is just the fact that discovery and search is a big part of AI. So if you take your Google phone, your phone today, and you go into Google, and then you try to search for something, I can most likely tell you that by the time you're typing the first word, Google itself is predicting to you the next, phase of word that you're going to type, right? So if you had started to say, where is AI used, Google would finish it up by putting the most, for instance, for you. Or if you had decided to say, what are the AI tools, before you finish it, Google will give you suggestion, right? So that is telling you that the system there is like grabbing all the word text used and then, iterating at the back and thinking about the most used one, right? So that's the biggest one you would see. So discovery and search, making it easier for you. The other one is fulfillment and logistic, right? I know you all buy things online today, and you find it right in front of your doorstep. In some cases, some is delivered by some third party in another case. But the biggest part of that is the system is grabbing all of what's it's like customers and then predicting that if there is a game in my area tomorrow, let's say I am a Pitbull fan, for instance, like people will be looking for Pitbull jersey in the area, right? And then we're using that to say, based on the last game or the historicals of games that have happened, what does that mean to people that are in that area, right? And before you start, you start making all of that order and all of that purchase, we're making the decision to put it closer to you using AI, right? And I think Dotun gave an example of that today, why we walk through that, simple problem statement on data set of like, this is the average customer. Once it's more than 150 customer, we start falling apart in the sales we make, for instance. So what do you use AI to do? It's a big decision support tool, and big techs are using it today to understand how they should fulfill, where their customers are located, and what is the customer ordering pattern. Definitely that leads to a lot of, enhancing existing products, because now we back to sentiment analysis, some of the things you did today, you would see that come true, where we now know that, oh, people don't like spicy pizza in this area. Hence, should we make another type of pizza? Just based on sentiment analysis, right? So trying to just relate some of what you've heard already to, there is no rocket science about this. People are using data to support decision and to build new products. If I know that half of my customers are pissed off today because they do not get spicy pizza, maybe I should start making that in the store, right? That's artificial intelligence for you, right? And you're able to use data to say how many customers feel bad about my spice level of my pizza. How many customers feel bad about my crust? Do they think it's too hard? Do they think it's too... Who cares more about the dough, right? Like things like that is used to synthesize new products. And I'm talking food here. Like, so think about all the devices you have. Think about your phone, your computers. Like, people are interested in knowing what is the new product, and most of that is generated, really driven by data from AI. And of course, the cloud is the biggest thing, right, today. Whether you're talking about any of the tech stacks, cloud, whether it's Azure, whether it's AWS, or whether it's open cloud source, right? What you will find out is we're all having this phone call, right, and learning session just because of the power of cloud. So we're also bringing into that and using machine learning to know where the demand is coming from, for instance, and things like that. Okay, all right. Having dwelled on that a bit, before I go into this, in the chat, I want you to, if just to be sure you're following, drop in the chat how best you use AI, how best you use AI. I want to see how best you all use AI today. What's your best AI tool? Drop something in the chat on that. What's your best AI tool in the chats? Okay. Having said that, there are a lot of like AI, ML, cloud stack as you move from organizations to the other. But something is just key, and I think that's the only thing you should take away from, from this slide. They're like platforms, and platforms will be made by, the companies that are developing this AI, and some of it like are open source. And beneath it and under it, there will be application services running. I know you all use your Google Photos, right? You see how it groups your photo these days. That's all driven by recognition, right? Recognition is, for instance, taking your face, taking the attributes of your face and trying to see the consistencies and, grouping it by name, right? So there are various services that run. It doesn't matter what the cloud company is, whether it's Google, whether it's Amazon, whether it's Microsoft. At the end of the day, at the back end, there are what you should know as like core application services running, and you all can tap into any of those application services, right? All of these things today, it's made easy for us with when you use your ChatGPT, right? ChatGPT itself, it's sitting on another application stack. So my core message here for you is like, in everyday use, we use this stack flows, we use this cloud stack to get into what we want from AI, and get into using it. And I think one of the most like easy one you can reach everywhere today is ChatGPT. So it was good to just see some of that come into play here today. Okay, I'll tell you about like 3 calls that you might find in Amazon AI. I think the first one I would say is recognition, because that one is usually very common, and you don't know every time you take a picture, whether it's you're putting it on your Google Drive or you're putting it on Microsoft Drive. What you would find out is that they have the ability to get your attributes, which is image analysis, right? The other one is like speech. Today there is a lot of interaction with bots, and it's not somebody, right? It's just the same way you would interact with ChatGPT prompt. You would see a lot of that come to, and their conversational engine that comes to light with that. I'm not seeing any of your messages in the chats, so I want to be sure you're all dropping your messages and questions. But at the end of the day, my core part of what I like, these 3 deep learning services that you probably, whether you subscribe to it or not, you are part of that ecosystem, is a lot of translation services. Today, you can speak your language into Google, and then you will find out that it translates it back, right? You probably can. I was in Germany today, and then all I was doing is, if you had to say something to somebody that was, traditional German, we would just use the phone, and then I would read whatever they're saying. And it's still that good today that you can take an image of it, and it will transcribe the image back to you in your particular language that you understand. So, okay, I see somebody putting bad as their favorite tool. Yeah, so you have all of these services running today, but the most important thing is, how are you using it? How are you thinking about using it? And are you actually leveraging it to make your work easy? I'll give you an instance. Everything that we discussed earlier on that problem statement that Dotun walked the group through is practically what a data analyst would do, right? traditionally, like you would employ a data analyst to look at the data, put it in Excel, draw some insight. But today you can actually use it as prompt on ChatGPT, right? So you can imagine if you're like a business person, do I actually need a data analyst, right? Probably what I need is something that publishes my survey data for me, and I can put it in ChatGPT, and I can eliminate one cost and get better in my bottom line, right? So this is the same thing we do every day at work. This is the same thing we do in the big tech. It's not rocket science. It's looking at where the opportunities are. You know about Siri, you know about Alexa, you know about all of these text and speech language understanding. Natural language processing is one of the big part of AI. I just told you about how Google Translate, we do this, we recognize your speech, and it would even characterize, kind of write the fingerprint of individual speech, right? If you had said something before, it could identify person A for person B. So a lot of opportunities here, building new products and also leveraging some of the capability of AI. But one of the things I do not presently like to interact with when I go to any website or when I'm speaking on phone, but you all see it today. You can actually create bots that would, make reservation for you. Will eliminate the work of a customer service agent, and it's some of the practicality on how today we use AI, because we know what the pattern is the same thing. When you call and you, for instance, you want to book an hotel, you're going to tell me where, which city, which date. It's the same thing every time, right? And okay, what's important to you? You want the lowest cost, or you want 5-star hotel, or you want 4-star? Like, everything we're collecting is a pattern, and we're able to like make all of that in tech and simplify it and remove the human interface. So I would say leverage the opportunity. Again, here I show some of the usual one. I talked about this already. There's a lot of face comparison, facial analysis. And when you're driving, how do we do autonomous vehicle today? It's all by the power of AI, right? We're using image recognition to drive the right action, to know when the car should stop, to know when the car should continue to move. We're doing a lot of that today in everything we do, in our operation, in our tech. So there's a lot of opportunity there. So anyway, I wrap up here by saying AI is probably everywhere you go. You just don't know, right? And there are many multiple organizations building on AI, as an opportunity, building on AI as definitely, a tech to use. Okay, I think I have like another 3-5 minutes, but any random question, I'm, happy to take, make it more interactive. Any question you want to ask about AI in, big tech? Okay. It's quiet in the chat message for sure. But anyway, I think I can yield back to Dotun. If there's no question, in case you have any question you want me to just talk about, really will appreciate.
Thank you very much for that interesting conversation. I really like the way you presented it and talked about the ways machine learning is being used in, across different markets and industries, and especially how AI now comes into play, facial recognition on your phone. When you have a lot of pictures, Google will tell you, okay, maybe this. In fact, now they could even it can even identify who this person is now. If at any point in time there's been a connection between that face and a name at anywhere on anybody's phone across all Google devices. So it could even suggest you that, is this person? gives you it gives you a suggestion. So it's really
Validation, triangulating.
yeah. So that's so they can even triangulate across different devices now, and can do a lot. And new thing that is even coming is for traffic control. I was reading something about traffic control recently, and now there's something Google is trying to work on. I don't know if it is really publicly in the open, but they could actually pick the number of like Google devices that are moving towards a particular direction, and then use that to control traffic lights based on how many vehicles and the demand. So in some areas, you could see that the delay could be 5 seconds, but in another area or at another time of the day, they could increase the delay to 20 seconds, depending on how many phones are coming or moving towards that direction. So the age of AI is here, and it's just the time for you to start appreciating it and starting to use AI in your everyday life, and starting to learn how to actually manipulate data, process data, and use data on a day-to-day basis. So thank you so much, Goke. I hope that another time when we invite you, you will be magnanimous enough to show up and share with us more insights that we have shared today. So thank you.
Always.
Somebody said,
Question.
could you elaborate more on your point of view on how AI may lead to attrition in data analyst position? So did you want to quickly talk about that?
I mean, I can go in depth in that. I think the first thing that is important is at the end of the day, we all need decision support tools, right? Whether it's built in people, or it's built in the tool, or it's built in the tech, right? Data analysts are decision supports, right? They help you look at the data to say, this is what I should do. I do not think that it will outrightly lead to the attrition. I think it will change the core of what the roles are. It will change the core of what the functions are, right? Because it becomes easier, right? So today, if you're using a day to analyze a data set, I would imagine now you can do that in 30 minutes, right? And now it's becoming, you can do that in 30 seconds. And then now, which is what I do sometimes at work, I'm always thinking, how do we automate this process so that nobody needs to queue to do this, right? So the important thing is what they do as a role will change, right? If AI can, help me do this faster, I think now what I need is more decision support in the outcome of my analysis. So ChatGPT will tell you, yeah, this is your average sale, right? But it will still make a recommendation and make a decision for your business, right? And even if it makes a recommendation, at the end of the day, somebody needs to put a backing behind that recommendation. So anyway, I would think for every data analyst, they definitely need to step back a bit and see that, number one, leveraging the tools and cutting and becoming more efficient. And number three, they are becoming more decision support analysts than just analysts to no end, right? They would say analysis paralysis happens a lot when you're a data analyst. But I think a lot of that will become them adding value as decision support headcount and not necessarily analyzing. What is the significance of video data annotation? I think Dotun did say some of that. Every time you annotate, you come to the point where you're able to group all the attributes together, right? If I'm able to annotate myself and my facial attributes to my name, it means every time I show up, I'm able to do that. So I'll give you an instance of computer vision, which is what I use a lot in some of the models I've built in the past, right? I'm able to separate who is the worker in a business unit versus who is the customer, right? Because the worker is somebody I probably frequently, I'm getting a capture of that in my data tables, right? Versus a customer comes in once every week and spends a less hour. So annotating your data helps you to separate out who are the players in your space And then now you can analyze that, right? Because if I am looking at my video footage and I'm saying, oh, I have 400 customers coming in, and actually out of those 400 customers, they are not unique, right? They are like 40 of it is my workers. I'm able to use annotation to take care of it. Okay, anyway, your questions came in late, but definitely I don't want to take so much time, but I appreciate some of the questions.
Thank you very much, Goke. It's been a very interesting session with you, and I really, really appreciate your time. I just wanted to throw more light on that video annotation question, just a little bit more. One of the things video annotations could do for you, could help you do, is in areas of security. So in the recent weeks, I've been working on installations of security cameras, and I've also been working on networking, and one of the things that I was doing recently was actually setting up facial recognition on a camera system where if somebody so actually the use case is this. So there is this guy who says there's a specific guy that has been coming to his doorstep and around this area. So he wants to be able to capture the guy and raise an alarm the next time that guy comes around his house. So what we did was to look at the camera and look at the the facials of that person and store it on the camera, and then connect that to an alarm system. So basically what we have done is anytime that face appears on that on his camera again, the alarm is going to sound in the area. That's number one. Number two, is going to get a notification on his phone that this person is here again, right? That's one use case. There's so many use cases for it. You could use it, for example, in driverless cars, like the example of Tesla. And what they would use, video annotation is to create scenarios and say, okay, when you see a scenario like this, the next time you see it, this is the decision you should take. And so having annotated that video, anytime that scenario plays out again, then the car knows what to do. And basically that's the concept behind driverless cars. I hope that discussion is very clear to you. It's also used in food processing, especially when you use vision, computer vision for food processing. If today you go to some big stores like superstores like ShopRite and Co in Nigeria, and you buy tomatoes that are well packed and neat, they have used image recognition and computer vision to process in selecting ripe, high quality. It also happens even with apples. When you go to buy apples and you see very nice, neat looking apples in a collection, well, what has happened is they have used some type of image recognition to select the good ones, and it is automatic, because basically as they are harvesting it and putting it through that the conveyor belt or whatever process that is being used to move it into the selection chambers right there, what is actually happening, there's something that is picking out the ones that are not nice and neat, and is also selecting the ones that are very clean. So that's why when you see your tomatoes well packed, nice, all very looking at the same size, it's basically computer vision and image recognition, and as well as data annotation that has happened in that process of making sure that you get the right size, the right shape, and the right quality, and they are always uniform. I hope that explanation is clear. We have a few minutes more to the end of the session. I will use this time to do an intro into SQL, and I may not be able to cover as much as I would like. I would probably be releasing additional videos subsequently for that, but I will now go over the remaining part of the introduction to SQL and artificial intelligence. So I will share my screen. Cool. Can you see my screen? Great. Thank you very much. Cool. So, what is SQL? SQL means structured query language. And that is the language of databases. And most organizations today use SQL. In fact, as a data analyst, after you have learned Excel, which is like, the bread and butter of data analysis, after you've learned Excel, your next language should be SQL. So I'm saying that perhaps around 60 to 70%, or even close to 80% of data analysts use SQL every day. And SQL is not a complex language, it's a very simple language to learn. If you can speak English, you can use SQL. So if you're in this class and you can understand what I'm telling you right now, then you have a base. You are close to knowing what SQL does and do and how to use it. So it's basically the language that you use to communicate with databases. Now we call it language because it has specific set of rules. Just like when you have in English language, where you have verbs, adverbs, and all these things. And when you want to use a singular and a plural, there are different ways to use it. It's the same thing with SQL. There are specific codes of how to use it, and that's what I want to put you through. And I will show you just the basic, the introduction, so that you start to know how to relate with SQL. So, like I said, SQL is a language of databases. It's how you relate and interact with a database. It's like, think of it as, think of a database as a library, for example, and you have a librarian, which is your interface to the library, or the person that helps you to execute your command, right? And then see SQL as the language of communication with that librarian. So imagine you are in a school and you want to pick a library. So your supervisor has said, go and pick a book on introduction to physics, for example, or introduction to political science, whatever that course is. And you go to your library and you say, oh, Professor XYZ said I should pick this book, Introduction to Political Science. The book should be in this part of the library. So basically, when you give that instruction, what that librarian is doing is helping you. He understands the language, goes into the library, look for the right appropriate section where that book is, and brings it out for you. That is SQL. So look at this. This is an example of an SQL code saying select star from books, right? It's as simple as that. It's not more than that. So when you hear, oh, it's SQL, structured query language, don't see it as something that is complicated. This is one of the basic, the easiest code, and this is one of the codes that you will use every day when you're working with SQL, is select star from wherever. Now this star is what is used as all. It's like select all. Is basically selecting all the columns, right, from the books. In this case, books. So remember that we're using SQL as an library as an example. It could be anything. Let me go back to the to our board, and we will use this as a guide as we walk through our board, right? So now, like I said, it's the standard language for relational database management system. Now, your next question, which I can imagine, would be, what is a relational database? So, a relational database is a collection of data items organized as a set of tables. And the most important concept here, tables, rows, and columns. Think of a relational database like a school locker system, or you could even think of it as a library. But I'll give you an example of what it looks like. The reason why it is called relational is because there are relationships between the tables. So let's go this way. Let's look at an example of a library. And in this case, I would use a library of, let's say, OAU, Obafemi Awolowo University, for example. Or no, I use my school, University of Ibadan, UI. So let's look at the Kennedy Library at the University of Ibadan, and let us speak, for example, you are a political science student. So there would probably be pol science section at the library, right? Or the department, right? No more. Okay, so now let's also pick computer science, right? And let us pick another department, one more. Let's say mathematics department. So this is UI library. In this situation, in the context of SQL, so we could treat UI library as the database, right? Within this database, you now have what you call, so let me pick pen and draw it. These are tables. I'll go again. Relational database. It's because there are relationships, right, between these tables, the relationship. So this, think of it as tables, right? Or you could think of it as, for example, departments. You know, you could also look at it as UI library or UI departments, right? See it as UI, as the departments, right? And in that department, you have pol science, computer science, mathematics department. And then you have, under pol science, you are going to have or you could say, so these are departments, or you could even pick each of these as a for example, you could pick each of these as a separate or sub database. You could call each of these ones as databases, right? And now you have tables. Tables could be, for example, the exam information about the student ID. It could be about, so let's create a table, for example, of students in pol science. So you have, for example, 100 level students. So within pol science, you have 100 level students. That's one table. Now you have another 200 level students, right? So you could have them like this. This could be, these are tables. 100 level, 200 level, 300 level, think of that. Now, when they are writing exams, for example, you could have a student that is in pol science, 100 level, that is also taking a maths course, right? So now see it here that also maths also has 100 level students, right? And also has 100 level table. But a student that is here in 100 level pol science could be taking a course in maths, and I've registered for a course also here in 100 level mathematics department. There is a relationship, therefore, there is a possibility that there is a student ID here in under level who is also a student at the maths department because of a course that is taken there. That is how relationships is built between different tables, right? Within the main database. And that's why it is called relational databases and the different examples of them. So consider that this is the way you build relationships within relational databases. So the relationship between the different items, their data items, right, that are in that database. So that's just a way to start to give you an explanation to help you to make a sense. Now, let's break this further down. Let's say there is a student with a matric number. Now, remember that you could have student ID, which is used within the department, but you could also have matric numbers. So let's look at all the different items that you could have for a student. All of us here might have gone to school at some point in time. So you would have student ID. Aside from student ID, you could have matric number. Then you would have age, right? You would have state of origin, right? You would have date of birth. And you would have the course title. Good. This is how you build this. These are the different columns. So if you are building a table in this case, so I will open up an Excel document here just to give you a sense of how this might work in a real life situation. So let's create for a moment a new table for this for the pole science students right now under level class. So you have student ID. Let me bold this. So you have student ID. Then you have matric number. Then you have age, state of origin. You could have date of birth. You could have course title. Right? Now, this student ID could be, let's say, departmental student ID. Some departments have their own unique ID, and then aside from the matric number, which is also unique, both are unique, but this is unique to the department and this is unique to the school. So in this case, this could definitely be like this matric number could be the primary ID or the primary key for this table, right? So now I'm trying to use this as an analogy to help you understand the definitions that we have here. So you have also the student name actually. So let's also put name. We have student name as well. So each of this is a column, and then you have a row. So like with this, that's here, a table is a set of data elements. There are records. Each of those rows are records for each student. One student may have 10112, 10112. Let's say this one is 10113. For example, it's just an example, but that is each row here is an item in the table. And let's say I want to select, so let's call this pole 100. That's Department of Pole Science 100 level. This table is called pole 100. In this situation, so we want to select this this student from this table. It would be select, let's say, matric number from pole 100. So that would be your code if you're writing a code, an SQL code in this situation. For this specific example, your code will look like this. If you're selecting all, you could just select star from pole 100. That's the code you would write in this case, right? Because that is your table. The table is pole 100. You're selecting star, that is select all the columns. But if I was going to be selecting maybe just the matric number, and I want to get this guy, information about this guy, which is 10112, then I would say maybe if I want to select, get all the information about this guy that has matric number 112. So it will be select star from pole 101, that is all the columns, where the matric number, in this case, so where the matric number is 10112. So that's how you do it, because basically, and like I said, it's just like English language. The only difference is there are basic rules that you need to follow as you write your code. There are 3 core SQL commands, 3 of them. One is the data query language. The data query language is more like selecting. So that is querying, selecting. I want this from here. I want this from here. That's you querying that database. There's also the data definition language, which is the one that you use to either create, modify, or delete. That's the one that you use to define your data. And then the third command is data manipulation language, which is the one that you use to insert, update, or delete. So there is data definition language, which is create, alter, drop. Data manipulation language, which is to insert into something, to update something, or to delete it. Those are the 3 classes, the 3 core SQL commands that you need to know. If you know these basics, you will probably be able to get away around SQL. Those are the 3 classes of commands that you would use on a day-to-day basis. And in the definition of data query language, is used for retrieving data from databases. Like I said, it's select star from the table. It's like, asking specific questions about your book. Like I wrote this one here, which is select author from books. In this case, the table will be books where title, that is on title, where the title equals to SQL 101. Remember that in the example that I just did, we said select star from pole 101 table, where matric number is actually, we didn't complete this one, where matric number equals to 10112. In this case, we are selecting, the query is selecting all the columns. That's why you have star, all the columns from pole 101, which is the name of the table, where matric number, in this case, matric number is 1011112. In this list, it will display all the information about this student. And that is the basics of SQL. If you know this basic and you can use it on a day-to-day basis, you see that you will learn quicker as you go along. There's also data definition language, which is commands that create, alter, or drop. An example, create table. Now, when in this case, when you are starting to create a table, that is where you're using the data definition language. And in the example that we have here, it's creating a table where the name of the table will be students. And in that table, you will have ID as integer and you have name. So this command now that you're seeing here, which is, so let's copy this command. So we will use this as an example and as a guide. Create table. So just, you know, in this case, create table, students ID, integer, name, voucher 255. I will just give you an example of what it will look like. In this case, the table name will be students. That's your first command. Create table, students. So table name is students, and it's saying on this table you should have ID as an integer. So on this table you will have ID, and it will be integers. What integer mean here is whole numbers, like 3, 2, 3, or ID could be 111, and it could be 222, like that. And then you're saying you should have name as varchar with up to about 255 character limit. That's what you have here. So the name here, you have a name as another column, and the names could be anything, but it would be string with up to 255 characters, and that's what you're going to have here. So this could be unnamed Joy, or whatever the name of the student is. So this is just an example of an SQL command that is creating a table as students with ID as integer, name as a varchar with that's a string with a character limit of 255. What it means is the character limit here, it should not be more than 255 characters. So DDL is like deciding to add a new section to a library, right? We used an example of a library in the other time, and this is saying create table, magazines. Title of that magazine should be a string with a character limit of 255. That's varchar. Issue, also an integer. So let's do an example of this table, this command that we just saw here. So this command here, create table, magazine. So in this case, the table will be called magazines, and you will have title as well as issue. Those are the two columns that are identified here. And on this title, the title will be a string with a character limit of 255. That's varchar. And issue, it would be an integer, int. So this one would be like 111. Should be an integer, and this should be a character limit of 255 characters. Basically, that's what you have as SQL. Now, in this class, we have not started introducing you to the exact the SQL environment. I just wanted you to start getting used to knowing what SQL is, how it's being used, and stuff. And we will be rounding up here. I think I've also already discussed what data manipulation language means, which is insert, update, and delete. And here you also have a command for filtering and sorting your data. I will say that perhaps what I would do is I will be creating some more videos that I will be sending out to you, because I think our time is fast spent and we should be rounding up now. I want to say thank you to everyone who has been a part of this series. I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much, guys.